Hello everybody, this is a conformance meeting for June 15, 2021. We abide to the CNCF Code of Conduct, which means we
I think Rian got load shedded. You're back, you had paused.
yeah, it looked like just a buffer in there. So what I'll do is I'll share the agenda, and Kirsten, not to put you on the spot, I think you're new to the meeting. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kirsten. I am a software engineer at Red Hat, and I'm involved in SIG architecture and also the release team. So I just wanted to get a little bit of more understanding of what was happening in these meetings and kind of just listen.
Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. And let's start with the first agenda point, which is the extended API E2E testing endpoints. Stephen, do you want to take that?
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm
yeah, you've got the wrong. Sorry, I'm getting a bit confused.
No,
I'm saying one thing and
sharing the screen, and then I moved it over. Sorry, my mistake. There we are.
There's, as discussed with Clayton historically, there's a bug in the way that some stuff is happening with the patching with the API service as I'm trying to do a conformance test for some endpoints. And if we scroll further down, there's been some feedback to suggest looking at just patching it, adding the label before the test is, I think it's actually a little bit further down, Brian. Yeah, here it is. Looking at actually just creating the appropriate label earlier when the API service is created to start with, and then everything should work as required. So just at this stage, looking to use that as a way to get the test to work for now, and hopefully we can make an appropriate comment somewhere so that this issue isn't actually completely forgotten about. Just want to be able to get the endpoints tested and in for this release.
I guess I didn't understand why we couldn't just change the test to put it where, maybe I'm misunderstanding the question, but at least would we just fix the issue? I can't tell, I thought this, originally I thought this was like there was a serious bug in API service, and I just saw the comment was, is this about you don't want to refactor the test?
No, it was more around the fact of I thought by having this potential bug, whether or not the bug should be sorted out. But if I can just add it at the start, then that's what the plan, my current thought is just do it that way.
What I hear you saying, Stephen, is that there's an exposed bug that we were hitting, and rather than trying to avoid hitting it, we were wondering if we should ensure that the bug is fixed before we merge this test. Or should we write another test later to ensure that the bug is fixed? Is that right?
Yeah. The easiest solution at the moment for me is just change the way that the API service is created at the very start. And so it has the appropriate label, and then we won't run into this issue.
Wait, so there's an actual bug, or is this just a test change? That's what I was unclear
of. Based on my logs and the way we talked about it, I put the link in the Conformance Slack channel about the point where we discussed it a few months back. And basically it's like the API service is getting completely ripped out and put back in because of the change, and it's just not available, so that I can delete the appropriate components at the end of the test. So yeah, there is actually the way we discussed it, there is a bug there. Once the services API service is up, if it's patched, then it will create some issues.
Stephen, so the way I understand, so the option is either we have to wait for somebody to fix the bugs before we can do conformance, or you create a label first and we walk around the bug.
Yeah.
Still getting the endpoint tested. So you want a choice of, should we walk around the bug or should we wait for the bug to be fixed?
Where's the link to the bug again? You mentioned you put it in chat. I don't see it. Maybe I would expect it on this PR, or is there a linked bug, or is there another issue linked to the PR?
Oh no, it was back in the Conformance Slack channel. 1 second, I'll just scroll back to the where I originally put it in. Oops. Copy link. Oops. Full screen. I'll just put it in chat, Clayton.
Thanks, Stephen. You can just paste it in the conformance agenda as well.
And
I think I'd like to recommend, as Clayton did, that we should be putting these things inside of the issue, because both Slack and the agenda are a bit transient.
Fully agree.
okay. Whoops.
Rian, can you go ahead and bring that to the front so we can see it in the meeting as well?
I'll do the Slack. I'll do that. Just a moment. Grab that quickly.
I'm looking at the link you have, and I don't. I see both of those links don't take me to things that look like actual bugs. They look like test changes. So I'm just. I don't remember what this discussion was. If there isn't, if you're saying that, like, I don't want to read between the lines here. So what's the actual bug? I'm not seeing the.
If we can go back round to the
code.
if we scroll back up to the top where I've got my initial and the logs there that I've put in, basically after I've done the appropriate patching and I've checked everything's okay, then once we're looking at doing going back to the current test to look at doing the delete at the very bottom, but then that's when it gets a unexpected error, and it's saying that it's a 503 error and the server is basically unavailable. Is the
Yeah,
situation?
I see the comment about it being an issue with the kubelet, but I don't remember where we were, so we probably should have just recorded this more effectively in an actual issue or something when we triaged it. I could believe that deleting an API service might interrupt the API server in some environments. It shouldn't. So can you still reproduce it? Like, is this reproducible in this PR right now? Is there a test log that shows it happening?
At this stage, this was only, I
think
yeah,
a
probably say
good way
go
for,
back.
go ahead, Clayton.
I was just going to suggest we should just try to get in a state where we can reproduce it.
Yeah.
Reproduce whatever the bug is. We'll open an
Yeah.
issue. Once we've opened an issue, I think I'm okay with working around it in the EDE test, although there's an element of if it's severe enough. Kind of the point of these conformance tests is if it breaks the API server, I do have a slight bias towards fixing the problem before we merge the conformance test, because the conformance test is an effective way to verify that both the issue is resolved and users don't have to do special logic to work around bugs in the API server, which complicates conformance. So that's kind of just my default assumption here would be if we can reproduce it, well, let's run it to ground and try to get it fixed.
Yeah.
Get the right SIG to help fix it, that is.
Cool.
So our action items here are create an issue, documenting the bug and reproducibility, and in parallel, go ahead and work around it in this issue, but note the change that was required so that we can create an additional conformance test later, hitting the same endpoint that specifically ensures this bug is fixed.
Okay.
And thanks for that review, Clayton. It was helpful.
No problem.
Okay, the next one is also yours, Stephen. Debugging redirects of the
Yeah.
proxy.
So if we can bring up my little document that I've gone through. Pretty much the document to start with pretty much just getting Coin Cluster up, and then getting, if we scroll a bit further down, Rian, it's where we start to get into the logs of actually using. So I've getting a pod up that's using the agnostic host image so that I can do a confirm the method going through to the pod by my test, just using curl to start with, and the logs I'm tweaking so that I can confirm what the request is coming back. But the
I'd say,
yeah, sorry, Happy?
Rian, can you control click on that link so that while he's talking about it, we can see as a group the changes that he makes to the API server to get the logs? Thank you.
Yeah, so I've added in some extra logging, so I get some extra detail about how the proxy part is working, and also having it so that I'm only, if you scroll just a fraction further, only having it where we only redirect only for HTTP GET and for head, but for all other methods, we're just letting it straight through as normal. So going back to the other set of docs, if we carry on further down, Rayan. Yeah, so here it's going through pretty much how I expect it to. But when I go a bit further down, Ryan, we go through all the various methods, but at the very bottom, what I'm finding is that the actual endpoints only hit, we should be getting, because we're looking at the root, we should be getting pod proxy is turning up in the actual hit logs here, but it seems as though everyone's getting redirected through to proxy with path. So it's skipping about 10 endpoints at this stage. So I'm a little frustrated, partly lost on where or why the actual path that I'm trying to hit, which if we scroll just a fraction further back up, Rian, I've got, just at this point here, there's both the proxy endpoints that the sets that I should be looking at getting responses from, which should be just for the root. So it's the fact that I believe I'm hitting the right API endpoint, but API server's not actually recording that hit. Or should say, the response back.
I want to make about this one, Stephen. One thing I'd like to make sure is if you're doing curl or any other thing, look at the actual anything hitting from that user agent to ensure there's not some logging like error in how we're mapping. I tried to get the actual endpoint names recorded in the audit logs, but I got pushback from the API. I think it's SIG API sort of machinery, because it added a new field there. But in order for us to know which endpoint we're hitting, we use the Open API definition as best we can in the way that you see this path to map back. But that's done, you know, and it's an automated, but it is programmatically done, and there may be some errors there, because if you go down to the bottom where you have your list at the very, very bottom, curl is hitting proxy with path, and we're not expecting with path. And if you can look at where you say, here's curl and here's the URLs, and show that the actual URL hitting API server and getting recorded, because that's all we have is the URL. We don't have the endpoint. We're using API Snoop logic to try to figure out what the endpoint is. And I just want to make sure that what we're seeing in the audit logs themselves are what we'd expect to hit or hitting pod proxy without the path. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I believe there's another table I need to go back to be able to confirm confirm exactly what's actually getting hit in the raw logs that we're getting on the audit events. Yeah. Cool.
Any comments on that, Clayton?
No, sorry, I was distracted. If there's a specific comment, I am more than happy to answer, but I was not paying attention.
No problem. Thank you. That brings us to the last bit of the meeting. We have several promotions that is ready to be approved. They have done their 2 weeks flag free. I could go through them quickly.
I approved the 2 of them that were no comment, and then there was just the 2 comments from John on the others about the text. So once that gets fixed, I'll approve those. So it's just the 2 that were not tagged just need, John asked for a slight tweak to the description text. I agree, it wasn't quite clear what the conformance test was validating in its description.
Yeah, I saw that just before the meeting, and I'll look at that straight after the meeting.
Good. And then we have
Good.
3.
Let's
Go ahead, Pepe.
No, I just said let's do that right after the meeting so that we don't lose the velocity on these.
Absolutely. Clayton, we will contact you the moment we're done with that. Thanks. And then we have 3 more E2E tests that is ready to go on the test grid. They all have been approved by LGTM by SIG Apps, reviewed. We went through, and they're all following the existing pattern of other tests that's already conformant and merged. So they're all ready for review or just approval if you're happy with them. They're all SIG apps, and this will help us take the apps endpoints, I think, up to 88% conformant for this release. Yeah, we've gained about 40% in the last 2 releases, so we're really
I think we'll
focusing
get 100% in the next 2 releases. I'm confident of that. 100% on apps anyway.
I've already started looking at the last 7 endpoints that are needed. So hopefully the next release.
Maybe we can get it next release. Ooh, that'd be even
Yeah,
better. I'd love to get that.
We're aiming for the next release. So yeah, if we can get these 3 on the test grid,
Yay!
get those going. Next release, we should kill the apps off, and we'll have a little apps endpoint party.
These are the actual test submissions for these top 3. Do we want to go through those real quick? Just particularly also for other people on the call to see what it looks like to write a conformance test.
If you lead, I can do the
Sure.
thinking.
We submit through a PR that says what missing pieces are there, and we can show you API Snoop later. But this is the actual ticket, and the ticket itself comes from an org file, which is an Emacs file we use to see what missing things are there and put some snippets together of code in order to make sure that inside of a living cluster that these snippets actually do hit the endpoint. So they're selecting to see the pieces of software that hit that, and there's our E2E test with the new test there. And if we go back, that gets exported as the ticket. So this is the same file exported as the content of the issue itself. And then we go through and get approval on that as an issue on these calls to say, are we going to do this right? And then when it's actually a PR to KK is when it has to go through the normal Kubernetes community approval for merging into the tests themselves. And after waiting 2 weeks, we do approvals for promotion to include those in the suite of tests that everybody runs globally. And so 4 of the tests you saw today are things that Clayton, as part of the API stewards and SIG architecture, get to formally approve. And so we're glad that those 4 will get approved. And these next 3, we're trying to get through quick enough so that we have the 2-week window to get inside of the 2022 release window. The tests themselves are basic. We have some framework we've extended to write those tests in that we use, and it's part of the standard Golang test framework. It exports into YAML files, which is where, when you touch those, the people that are in the owners for conformance test data have to approve. So we're going to go update the metadata for this test that John's asking for clarity on just after this call.
There we go. Thank you very much for that.
Clayton, I think that's all we need from you. Is that right, Rian?
That's correct. If we can get some eyes on those, and we will fix that issue quickly and reach out to Clayton when we're done.
Cool. Thanks all.
Cool.
Thanks,
Clayton. Thanks for the time. Thanks, Kirsten.
For the other people on the call, if you're interested, we can spend a little bit of time going through what the Conformance Project is and where those connection points are. But if you just wanted to see what we normally do on a head down call, this is what we normally do. But we have allocated another 30 minutes if that would be helpful.
That would be helpful for me, but if you have some place to go, then I also don't want to hold you out. So
we are funded from the CNCF to provide this conformance program in order to ensure we're the definition of Kubernetes and definition, therefore the definition of what the cloud is clear. And we're always looking for more people to participate in that. Red Hat, Rian, while you're driving, can you go to github.com/CNCF Kate's Conformance and look at the recent PRs and limit to Red Hat so we can show, I believe Kirsten said she's from Red Hat.
Yes.
So at the end of the tool chain, the main thing here is getting the shiny badge that says, my company has fancy software that is the cloud. And if you'll scroll down to 121, there, right, the B121 up a little bit. 4 days ago, China Mobile was the last one to submit their bits, but I bet something that looks like Red Hat will be in this list. Just scroll down and look at the. So not yet, but that's okay. If we go up one release, there will be. So go back to just change the URL to 120. And this is like, I love it because it actually is what defines the community of Kubernetes. In the end, the actual people who give this as a service to others.
Oh, there we go.
So it's
OpenShift.
OpenShift. Yeah. So go back up to the OpenShift folder, and that OpenShift will be a particular PR from a human. And so this was actually Clayton submitting the results, right? And so he's probably involved, shockingly, right? And there's directions on how to bring up one cluster of Kubernetes using the CI job that was generated by this commit and to run the test. And in the end, the test generates some log files, the E log and the JUnit XML log. And we make sure, this is stuff that our friend Rian and his brother Berno worked on in product YAML, or yeah, go ahead and go to the PR. That's a great way to do it. Is we verify in this this list, we have a CNCF CI automation bot. And the first time around, it looks like the product YAML was not there. So there must have been, it's not verifiable. And Clayton said, oops, I'm going to force push. So he pushed again. And then the bot said, yay, you've got your document in there. And it has the appropriate fields. And then it checks to make sure that the title is there in the logs. And the title has V21 in the name of it. And that it's the right version in the logs. And that there aren't any missing tests. And Clayton was sad. He's like, hey, these should be there. What's the problem? And so people were looking at it. This is actually more verbose than we most time have. Most of it just automated and done. And we looked at, there's some strict ways that the tests are verified. And so he re-pushed it in the way that everybody else does it. I think the underlying thing is that we usually only accept things run by Sonoboy and in a particular format. And we also, Berno, updated the verify conformance test to parse it better. There's a ticket for that for later, but we may not get to that because this was kind of a one-off thing to fix Clayton's submission.
Gotcha. This is cool. I've never seen this repo in my life. So like,
yeah, it's part of the go ahead.
The magical thing that happens right here. You are now certified Kubernetes.
Woohoo! And that's going to be a CNCF employee who has permission to do this. Our team just provides the infrastructure for connecting this projects, the CNCF sponsors, to the infrastructure provided by our donors. The website that our friend Rian is pulling up now, is it 115? Something's weird. Go to, yeah, there we are. So this is 122 test coverage, and the little gray dots, or the gray areas, are like color in the blanks with your favorite pencil, preferably via the category there. And if you zoom into stuff that's part of stable, you can see that there's actually 68% coverage, although we removed some of those because they're ineligible for conformance. We're at 73. Ideally, all of the GA endpoints have a clear definition and are run globally. And you know that your workloads will run anywhere as long as you're focused on the generally available Kubernetes endpoints.
And then for the ones that are gray, like what
ahead.
happens? What happens between now and the 122?
You just saw it.
Yeah.
So
we
what we
identified
do is,
some of them. Go ahead.
if you look at SIG apps, you'll see at the moment SIG apps have 63 GA endpoints. And of those, 40 is conformance tested. So what we just did in the meeting, we discussed all the PRs that we created. So the II team is focusing on getting all these endpoints conformance tested. So Stephen and myself go and find the endpoints that's untested. We create E2E tests. You see this one is showing E2E tested, but not conformance tested. And that's one of the PRs that you saw now. So the moment the PR merge, this will actually become a darker color. And as we said, we are aiming to fill in those blanks until there's only 7 left by the end of this release.
Woohoo! So the short version is the org files that we start with in Emacs, query a database of what's left. And then we focus on those and go read the documentation and get with that community and write just a small snippet of Golang code and run it, and then check our logs to see if we hit it. And that's before we actually write anything formal. So that org file becomes a markdown that we create an issue for and ask the right people. We noticed these are not tested at all yet. We read the docs. Are these the right docs? We talked to these people. Are they the right people? And here's a little log noting what this code did. If we were to write a test, is this the right way? Because previously, way back in the day, there was no progress. Like for years, like you can see a year and a half. It was before our team took over to start writing tests. So all of the extra red stuff is the technical debt that the II team pays off by writing these endpoints.
This is super cool. Like it looks like such an improvement. And I know that the conformance test like criteria got incorporated into also the CAT template. So it feels like this is on like a really good trajectory, like with a lot of impact. So it's pretty cool.
I'm super, what I'm looking forward to is the mouse up over the gray, the debt that's left. We got 115. So my commitment to the CNCF is this team is to get that below 75 before end of year. And that means very likely in 2022, we'll be 100% defined what the cloud is by working with the community to understand it. And enforcing all of the world that wants to have the shiny badge to have passed them all. When we first started, only 11% of what Kubernetes did was tested at all. And so I'm super proud of the team and then the interactions with the community to extract this. It's the washing the dishes work. Nobody wants to do this, right? But it has to get done. So these meetings are not well attended. They're usually people like Clayton or people that have the executive permission to approve these things. But I do find them super interesting, and then particularly the way that we work is quite fun. Stephen, are you? Yeah, you're here. Can you drop your pair link? Actually, if Berna, why don't we? Who's sharing their screen? I want to show Kirsten our pair environment.
So
I've got my boxes at the moment.
Yeah, Stephen, why don't you share the web browser or share a screen on your side? Show Kirsten the pair.sharing.io UI first, and then jump into your pair session and go through your current org file that creates the markdown and then maybe your test. Because we still got, we got 24 minutes. There's plenty of time.
Let me see. How do I make you a host?
I just noticed we have another human here. You don't have to introduce yourself, but we would invite you to.
Hi, my name is Jyoti. I was just introduced to the conformance test area a few weeks back. I got interested here to see what's happening in the meeting. So I work for AWS. I'm the EKS team, and I released 120 for EKS, and I had to run this conformance test. And I found a few things interesting. I want to probably share since you're asking. One thing was you mentioned just now that Sonoboy is the preferred way of running conformance tests.
Yep.
Yeah. So the README there didn't tell me that. So I had to do some digging to find out what my previous teammates did, and for that
Right.
you have to use Sonoboy. But
It's not a hard requirement, to be honest. It's that it shouldn't be. And where we have issues where they're not submitted, we need to capture those as part of the automation. I think it's somewhat in the way that the JUnit files are slightly different, and I don't know that we fully understand, because we don't have enough people submitting when that occurs, because they're in a rush to get conformance. If they find a quick workaround, then they go run Sonoboy and run with it. And so it's kind of a chicken and the egg. Do we try to say Sonoboy isn't the only way because it's the easiest way, or do we take some time and fix the edge cases that come in when you run, because all it is 2 log files, E2E log and the XML.
yeah, so, and I read in the README that the Gingo test framework is what is advised, right? So probably Sonoboy runs the same framework internally, maybe.
Totally. And that's an open source, like it's not curated by the CNCF, which is a different thing. I think Sonoboy may be, but it's run by VMware / who owns VMware, or no, it was.
Yeah, it's VMware. So the next thing I had to dig was which version of Sonoboy should I use? There are image versions, and I just picked something, got lucky.
Yeah.
It was not.
It depends on how far you need to go back, and we only go back 3 releases, and so the current release of Sonoboy should be able to run against all versions of what we're allowing conformance for, and if it doesn't, it's a bug.
I see. So the latest is the criteria or the guideline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
And if you have trouble with either of these, I'd say definitely dump your questions directly in the Conformance Slack, and you'll get responses from, because all these people are people like yourself at the big companies trying. If they're getting this far in, then you're talking to the right folks.
Okay, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem, Jyoti. It's good to have you here. Stephen, can you go ahead and drive and share the pair way?
I am trying to work out how my box to do the share one of my screens.
Tell you what, I'll do it. You can still drive, but I'll share my screen just to simplify things, because I can do it a little easier. So give me a moment behind the scenes to launch the browser and figure out how to share the bits. By the way, I just want to say the stuff you're about to see is super cool. And I don't think many people in the world understand how useful it is, but I know that the host disabled participant screen sharing, and Rion, your host, eh? And you're soft muted.
Stephen, I see that when I gave you screen sharing, you were made host, so just change that back to, or the path over to Hippie, please.
Thanks, Stephen.
Finding.
Go on participants, and then you can just do more.
Thanks for your patience, Kirsten and Yoti, as we
I've just made
hand the baton around.
No worries. It's morning where you are, right? So I can't get started early anyway. You're living in the future.
We are. It's always tomorrow.
We're tomorrow.
And I won't be able to stick around very much. I forgot I have an appointment at 10. But can I share now? Share screen?
Yeah, all too.
Yeah. All right, here we go. So I'm going to share. So, that's fine. So this is pair.sharing.io, and I'm going to drop that in here. If you are a member, don't go wild and tell everybody yet, because it is open to the entire Kubernetes community, but it's still incubating, and I don't want to get inundated with stuff yet. But if I go to here and I log in with GitHub, I can log in with a read only or a read write token. And if I log in with a read write token, it went through to GitHub and got permission to be here. So we now have the ability within this box to check out code and whatnot. And if I click on new, I can fill in repositories like Kubernetes, and I'll invite you to be a part of this as well. So Kirsten or Gyoti, can you give me your GitHub usernames? You can drop it in chat or all right, I'll grab, there's I'll grab that and I'll put that into here. And then Kirsten, if you've got yours, I'll grab that one as well. And this is just as it's a white space separated list of people to pair with. Oh, beautiful. That's a fun one. I used to watch that. And you can put environment variables like here, and we'll say helping equals good. And we're going to call the box. It will default to your username, but I'm going to call this one Conformance, because that's the name of our box. So if I hit launch on here, and you could do it as well with different repos and different guests and different environment variables and different name. I believe it is launching now, and it is. And there's becomes this URL. If you log in to pair.sharing.io and you don't have to do read write if you don't want to, if you don't trust us, whatever, it's fine. But you'll be able to see your list. So if I go to all on this little blue icon, I'll see all the other people that I'm pairing with somewhere. It's thinking for a moment. We're probably all hitting our poor little not well designed interface. I mean, not like heavy loaded, right? This has been internal primarily. So I see created by me. I've got the conformance one, HH, and other people. So while we're waiting for it to come up, I'm going to go click on Haystays, which is Stephen Haywood, who is on the call, and I have his permission to take a look, if that's all right. He's got www and Grafana sites up inside of this living cluster. And he's got this cool kube config bit to get in there, and there's this join pair session. So without any software, I can either click on this link here and put it in my terminal, or I can click on join pair. To make it super simple, I'm just going to click on join pair, and it will bring up a terminal inside of my browser to interact with the code. Now, this window that you see here is inside a Kubernetes cluster running on Packet, and he has open a apps v1 stateful status lifecycle test.org, which is an Emacs like fancy markdown file. And now I'm going to walk away because I have to go to another meeting. But you're in good hands with Stephen. And if you have any questions, if you want to spin up one of these on your own, feel free to do so and reach out to the team on Slack.
That's really cool. This is really cool. Thank you.
It is fun. If you want to do a pair session at some point. Oh yeah.
Before you walk away, sorry for bugging you for that.
How do I do that? That's okay. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Go to participants, and then you click there on my name, more, and then make me host. More. You are a host, and just in case, Stephen, you are now co-host. And I am stepping away.
Oh, and just I posted in the Slack channel, but SIG Architecture was wondering if someone from Conformance could give like a brief update in Thursday's meeting. So if anyone wants to give like a 5-10 minute update, just I guess add yourself to the agenda. That would be great. Thank you.
Will do. Rian, you can grab that if that's all right. Feel free to stay. I'm leaving because I have to go. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for me. Brian?
Yes, I think I'm going to stop the recording. I think that's good. Yes.